Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe.
Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe.
Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. भगवद गीता पास आउट करनी है. It's okay. It's okay.
Put it on the floor.
Huh?
ये दे दो मुझे यहाँ पे रख दो.
It's fine. It's fine.
कहाँ रखोगे?
I'll put it here.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone for this Sunday Feast program. We are reading from Bhagavad Gita, and today's verse is 9.24, which is chapter 9, 24th verse of chapter 9. So, I'll let you find the page before we start. Anybody already has found it? Just say the page number. Page 404. So page 404, verse 24, chapter 9. So we'll get started. We'll read the verse first. Aham hi sarva bhokta cha prabhurev cha natu mam abhijananti tatvena taschayanti te.
Aham hi sarva yagnanam bhokta cha prabhureva cha natu mam abhijananti tatvena taschayanti te.
अहम ही सर्व यज्ञानां भोक्ता च प्रभुरेव च न तु माम् अभिजानान्ति तत्त्वेन तास्यवन्ति ते.
अहं हि सर्वयज्ञानां भोक्ता च प्रभुरेव च नातु मम अभिजानन्ति तत्त्वेनातास्यवन्ति ते.
We'll read the word by word translation. Aham, I. He, surely. Sarva, of all. Yagnanam, sacrifices,
sacrifices,
bhokta,
bhokta,
the enjoyer,
the enjoyer,
cha,
cha,
and
and
Prabhu,
Prabhu,
the Lord,
the Lord,
eva,
eva,
also,
also,
cha,
cha,
and
and
na,
na,
not,
not,
tu,
tu,
but,
but,
mam,
mam,
me,
me,
abhijananti,
abhijananti,
they know,
they know,
tatvena,
tatvena,
in reality,
in reality,
ataha,
ataha,
therefore,
therefore,
chavanti,
chayavanti,
fall down,
fall down,
te,
they,
they.
they,
English translation by Srila Prabhupada. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here it is clearly stated that there are many types of yagna performances recommended in the Vedic literatures, but actually all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Yagna means Vishnu. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should only work for satisfying Yagna or Vishnu. The perfectional form of human civilization, known as Varnashrama Dharma, is specially meant for satisfying Vishnu. Therefore, Krishna says in this verse, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices because I am the Supreme Master. Less intelligent persons, however, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary benefit. Therefore, they fall down to material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he will thus achieve the desired result. We'll say the prayers. If you want, you can repeat, or we can sing together. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitamscha Sadhvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sah Lita Shri Vishakhavamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kancha Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishibhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpa tarubhascha kripa sindhu vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So welcome again, everybody. This is chapter 9, verse 24. It's a very interesting topic that Krishna is talking about in this subject. It's about demigods, the position of demigods versus the position of Krishna. Most of us would have, I'm sure, are able to relate to that aspect very easily. To just get us started, I'll share my quick story. I was a demigod worshipper before I came to America, and when I was in India, I didn't even know much information about Krishna consciousness. I knew Krishna, and to me at that time, Krishna was same as all other demigods. I had no better or less information about Krishna. So I used to go to temple every day, and the temple name was Hari Mandir. Radha, Krishna were the central deities in that temple. For some reason, Pujari always forgot to give Krishna its flute. So he would be like standing there with Radha next to him without flute. So I would go to the temple every day. From the left side was Shiva, the first deity, and I would start from the left side, go one deity by the other, and I knew what each deity is meant for, what each demigod provided. I went there to that demigod, pay my obeisances, and asked what they were supposed to provide. And after I made my rounds through the temple, visited all the demigods, and I saw like this Krishna and Radha and Krishna are standing in between, and I kind of felt bad leaving the temple without paying obeisances to them. But I had no clue what they are meant for, like what they give. Like what am I supposed to ask them for? So I went to them, pay obeisances, but I didn't ask for anything because I didn't know what they are known for. Like what do they give? Like Durga, if you go to Durga, you ask for things. If you go to Shiva, you ask for certain things. So I came back. So this was my story for few years. Visited temple every day, every Tuesday, visited temple for Hanumanji. I came to America, and after got married, we went to the Brooklyn temple. And Brooklyn temple, I saw same Radha Krishna deities. And I was surprised. I said, this cannot be a coincidence. Like same deities, fortunately they had their flute this time. So this cannot be a coincidence. And that was my first kind of a realization that there is, some superior power. And then, my wife was already into Krishna consciousness, so I got in touch with devotees, got some information about Krishna, got, some information from the scriptures, so learned more about Krishna and Krishna consciousness. And slowly, the taste for demigod worship kept going away. It started with having Krishna deity with other demigods because it takes time to wean off of anything. And then slowly the demigod moved away, only Krishna stayed on the altar at home. I used to wear a locket with Durga Mata, that came off. Suddenly someday I felt like I don't need this anymore. So Durga Mata locket came off, Kanthi Mala came on. I had like 2-3 rings in my fingers, each one for a different thing, that came off. So somehow or the other, slowly transition happened, and only Krishna remained, and demigods, moved out from the worshipable platform. And things have been okay. Like there wasn't like a big shock in the life that this happened or anything. For all purposes, it was a very smooth transition. So that is my story. And I'm sure each one of you have your own stories, your own questions in your mind. All of us, especially if we are from India, we have our own relationship with demigods. And we all have our own favorites. My favorite was Durga Mata, but I'm sure you guys have your own favorites. So as we go through the readings today and learn more about what Krishna is saying in this verse, I would encourage you to think about your relationship with demigods that are your favorite, or the demigods that you worship, and challenge yourself, the thinking, the conceptions you have with your demigods. And come forward at the end of the class. We'll have question question and answer, and openly come forward, challenge yourself, and see what it makes sense. So today maybe all I'm suggesting is another time to reassess your thinking process and maybe make another determination. And wherever you land up is totally your decision, but this is our chance to take, just challenge your thinking process again. Okay, so we'll get started. So in this verse, Krishna is making two key points. The first one is Krishna is saying, I am the supreme and the only enjoyer of all sacrifices. So very clear terms, Krishna is putting his foot in the ground or stake in the ground and is declaring that I am the supreme. The second one, Krishna is saying demigod worshippers fall down or they stay in the material existence. So I am the supreme, but if anybody has any doubt that I am not supreme and they think demigods are supreme, please be aware that that's not the path of liberation, and you will fall down in the sense that you will stay in this material existence. So these are the two key points that Krishna is making in this verse. And the way we're going to study this verse more in detail, the structure is, first we're going to look at what is the context in which Krishna is saying this. Like, why is Krishna even saying this? What's the background? What's the context? Every Sunday we read one verse, so that's just a connection to the other verses and the continued study of Bhagavad Gita. So we'll see what is the context that Krishna is saying this. Then we'll try to understand Krishna's point in detail. If he's saying, I'm the supreme and demigod worshippers fall down, what does he mean? Some of the other dimensions or aspects connected with that. And third and last is, how do we apply in our own lives? Right? So we'll go through reading the text, understanding it, and the last is, what do we do with it? Right? So information is good, but it should always be our intent of how do we apply that in our lives and what can we change. Make sense? Okay, so the context behind I am the only enjoyer. So the first point, we said Krishna is making 2 points. The first point is I am the supreme, the master, and I am the only enjoyer. So what is the context? This is chapter 9, and the title of chapter 9 is the most confidential information. What is the most confidential information that Krishna is sharing? So Krishna has shared with us so far that we are the spirit souls. In Bhagavad Gita, the confidential information revealed is that we are the spirit souls, we are not this body. So anything connected with this body is not us. If our mind tells us to do something, that's not us, it's our mind telling us. It's basically a realization that we are spirit souls, which is far superior than just passing by thoughts that come in our mind. Right? I want to do this, like I want to do that. That's not us. That's just some thoughts coming into our mind. But we are eternal living souls. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So we are souls, also referred as jivas. But Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And the third aspect of this confidential knowledge is the connection between us and the Lord. Us, the eternal souls, are eternal servitor or servants of Krishna. That is our relation. We are connected with Krishna eternally through bhakti or devotional service. That is our position. So Krishna is declaring here, the jiva's position is basically of devotional service to the Lord. Any other position we try to attain is not going to be a happy situation, and we'll struggle a lot. So once Krishna has said or shared this most confidential information, the path, one of the impediment in inculcating or believing this most confidential or acting upon this most confidential information is our relation with the demigods. Because of the lack of knowledge, we sometimes feel demigods are all in all. Demigods are our support structure. And until the time we feel that demigods are our support structure, surrender to Krishna or believe that Krishna is the support structure. So here Krishna is basically dismissing our reliance on demigods. He's challenging clearly, he's cracking that shell of illusion that your reliance on demigod is secondary, and he's doing that so that he's encouraging our relationship with him, which is the relationship of devotional service, eternal servitorship or bhakti. So after he said that most confidential information, in order to act on that most confidential information, he is dispelling or breaking one of the bonds we have with demigods, which is basically an impediment for us to be able to totally believe in the most confidential information. So that is basically the context why Krishna is referring about the demigods in this chapter, which is about most confidential information. Any questions so far? If you guys not ask questions, we'll be done very soon. Yes, Chris Prabhu.
People pray to the lottery. People pray for the most basic thing today. People pray for is money. They're not praying to any particular demigod, especially in this country. You know, I don't know much about many other countries, but
Everywhere people pray for money.
people pray for money here. Is that? Are we going to say that that's equivalent to praying to a demigod for material gain?
Yeah, so in India, people pray for Lakshmi Devi. And so in India, we pray to a demigod Lakshmi Devi for money. It's basically, a demigod is a personality that is meant to provide money. Here, people pray for money just for the money. But in India, we have a face attached to it, or we have a demigod attached to it. So yes, to answer your question, directly or indirectly, that is basically, we're looking at money as our support structure. Right? So it's a subtle form of the demigod, you can say, if we have our name of the demigod. But for Westerners, like they're not praying to Lakshmi, but so it's a subtle form of the demigod. So yes, any other supports. So we can extend the definition. Demigods in India, yes, there are names, there are faces, but other places the same concepts apply, even though the names and faces are not there. Any other?
We probably pray to some angels here.
Pray to some angels. Santa Claus. Yes, the demigods in the Western world is a Santa Claus. Okay, so we looked at the context. The next is we're going to understand the text in more detail. So Krishna is saying, I am the supreme and the only enjoyer of all sacrifices. So first thing that Krishna is basically establishing that Krishna is primary and demigods are secondary. Krishna is clearly stating that the position of three entities, the position of a soul, which is us, position of demigods is like almost gods. They are demigods because they have more power, higher power than us, which is normal, living entities. So they are superior to us. And then the third position is Krishna, which is the highest most position. Krishna has the most power, most qualities above any demigods. Right, so that's basically Krishna is clarifying the position of these three entities, and Krishna is declaring that the position of Krishna is the highest most, demigods are secondary to Krishna, and living entities are at the lowest of the food chain, dependent on basically Krishna. So we may ask, why do we have demigods? Right? If Krishna is the supreme, why did Krishna need demigods? The simple answer to that is it's kind of a management system. We live in the material world, we go to our workplaces, we live at home, we are kind of eternally organizers, right? We always try to make our life better. We go to a company, there is a CEO of the company, CEO has managing director, there are different departments, each department has a department head reporting to a managing director. So that's the kind of the organization that we see around us. Krishna has the same kind of organization. We are the living entities. We have so many desires. So think of these desires as a department. And for desires, Krishna has all these departments, and the department heads are the demigods. So department heads, demigods are always kind of secondary to Krishna. So the need of the demigods is there because to manage the affairs of the material world, that's the role of demigods. And they've been put into place by Krishna, who is the above all the demigods. So the second question that may come is, okay, there are demigods, and we kind of understood why Krishna needed demigods just to manage the affairs of the material world. But how did this worshipping the demigods came into existence? Why do we have to worship demigods? Or why do scriptures, because if you look at the scriptures and Vedic text, they are recommend the worshipping demigods is recommended in those texts. So the next logical question that would come to our mind is, what is the need of it? Why this confusion was created by Vedic scriptures? If Krishna is the supreme and demigods are just secondary to Krishna carrying out his will, why do we need to worship them? So Vedic scriptures, the worshipping of demigod is more of a concession given in the Vedic scriptures rather than as a practice. Right? So as an example, if you think if there is a departmental store, and the most kind of a fashion, people wear these kind of clothes, but we also aware that there will be some people who's going to want a different kind of wardrobe. Tone jeans. I want a jeans that has a big hole in my knees. I hope nobody is wearing, so please, So if you know that there will always be people who will have these different kind of demands, then you have a separate section for them. You give them a little concession. Okay, we'll have these two varieties of jeans that kind of address to that kind of a need. Similarly, it was understood that some of the jivas are going to have desires that are will have desires that are different or normal, and in order to fulfill those desires, the worship of demigod was suggested as a concession. So demigod worship is not prohibited, but it is not encouraged also in the scriptures, but it is there as kind of a concession. An example is if somebody wants to eat meat, right? So it is suggested that they worship Kali. Kali is a kind of a goddess, demigod, and then you can eat meat. So that was a concession made for those kind of people with these kind of desires. The expectation is anybody to progress in the path of realization, but an acknowledgement is made that there will be people who are not going to have that knowledge and will try to fulfill these desires. So a concession was made where these desires can be fulfilled in a controlled manner, in a restricted manner. So Vedic scriptures by no way say that forget Krishna or forget the Supreme Lord and start worshipping demigods, but the worship of demigod was basically provided as a concession. However, with time, the real knowledge fades away and all stays, and by false propaganda, the demigod worship took more prominence. And now as time passed by, the real knowledge kind of is not freely available. So it seems like demigod worship is all in all, but that's not the case. An example is if you have a garden and you stop taking care of it, if you stop sowing good seeds in it and stop watering it and stop actively managing the garden, you will see the weeds will grow up. Right? Similarly, the path of true realization or the true knowledge faded away, and that's how and by false propaganda, the demigod worship somehow took prominence. And now the general conception is demigod worship is in itself, like demigods are gods and demigod worship is all in all, which is not the case. Yes, Prabhu.
Use your analogy, if the demigods are there to provide for people's desires or material needs, is the verse saying, don't pray to the demigods for your material needs, think of me, or is it saying to drop your desire for material things? Like, to use your analogy of a manager, you wouldn't go to the CEO to ask to have soy milk in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Is he saying drop your desire for those materials?
So both, I'll say, the ideal state is don't have a desire. So the most confidential knowledge is our relation to Krishna is that of a devotional service, is that of a service, bhakti. The ideal stage is understand that and move on a path of devotional service. And on a path of devotional service, all your desire, the only desire you have is how to make Krishna happy, is for Krishna's satisfaction. However, that is the end state. The starting stage is if you have material desires, and in the purport that we read, Prabhupada is saying, if you have material desires, you still should go to the Supreme Lord rather than the demigod for that material desires, because Supreme Lord is superior to the demigods. So it is okay to do if you are early on in your journey of self-realization. However, if you progress that way, the end result will be that you will make progress on the path of bhakti, and slowly the taste of these material desire will go away. Any other questions? Okay, so we talked about why we need demigods, which is kind of a management system that Krishna has designed to carry out the affairs of the material world and to take care of the jivas. Why do scriptures recommend demigod worship? We talked about that. It is not all in all. It is a concession made, but with time somehow, and false propaganda, it has come across as all in all, but that's not true. Krishna's superior position is superior to demigods. So now Krishna is using this a blanket statement and saying anything material or spiritual has come from me. There is nothing beyond me. There was nothing above me. And everything that you see has come from me. Demigods are not spiritual. They are part of the material world. So demigods have basically come from Krishna. Krishna created the demigods. So this is, Krishna is saying this, but even demigods also say the same thing. In Brahma Samhita, Brahma, who is the first demigod, and from him came the others, is clearly saying that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Krishna is my Supreme Lord. In Brahma Samhita also, Lord Brahma give an example. So one of the popular demigods in India, and now also gaining popularity in America, is Ganesh, the elephant god, normally referred to in India. I still remember a few years ago, in my office, I had a colleague, and he was blessed with a child. And he came to me and he says, I need elephant god. And I asked him, what do you need elephant god for? And he said, I've heard that it's good to have, good luck, is how he kind of put it. He said, it's good luck to have demigod, and we were just blessed with a child. I want to have the elephant god so that it's good for the child. And I tried, by that time I had some knowledge, I was already, associated with the devotees, so I have some knowledge, and I tried to explain him the relation between a demigod, which is Ganesha, and Krishna. So, end of it, I basically did not give him Ganesha, I gave him a deity of Krishna. And he kind of took it. I never saw him after that. I don't know what happened. So, but the rest is up to Krishna, and I'm sure he would have definitely, benefited from that. But in Brahm Samhita, Lord Brahma is saying, so elephant god, as I said, my colleague said it was for the good luck, but basically elephant god or Ganesha is known to remove obstacles. You're starting a new business, pray to Lord Ganesha. In India, it's so prominent for everything. Any new thing you start, you pray to Lord Ganesha because he's supposed to remove the impediments. So Lord Brahma is saying the power of Ganesha to remove impediments comes from because he holds the lotus feet of Krishna on his head. So basically the power that demigods have, their power to provide the benedictions, specific kind of benedictions, is nothing but coming from Krishna. Right? If there wasn't the blessing hand of Krishna behind the demigods would not have these powers. Just like going back to our previous analogy, a departmental store or in a company, any department manager gets his power from CEO. Right? Hiring and firing is so common. Once a department head is fired, has no power. Nobody asks about once a person loses his position. So the fact that the demigods are kind of have respect is because of their position, and the position they have is because of Krishna. Similarly, Lord Brahma, another demigod in India is Durga, which I told in my story. That was my favorite demigod before it got kicked out by Krishna. Lord Brahma says, Durga manages the affair of the world, right, of this material world, and has so many powers and does so much, but it's not, free will of Durga, what she is doing. She is basically following the will of Krishna. She is executing the will of Krishna. So the point being, the demigods are not all in all. They are basically executing the will of Krishna, right? Without that's where the powers are coming from. That's where the direction is kind of coming from. So how is Krishna's position superior to demigods? We said because Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita clearly. Because demigods say that, right? Agree to that and say that there are pastimes that we have heard. We celebrate so many festivals. There are pastimes that we know and heard that kind of proves it. The famous pastime is the Govardhan Leela, right? Where Indra, who's another demigod in charge of providing rains so that the grains can grow. In Govardhan Leela, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but in Govardhan Leela, Krishna basically put Indra into his spot, right? Just like we started feeling that demigods are the gods, sometimes demigods can also get infected, for the lack of better word, because they are part of the material nature, which by nature is illusion. So sometimes demigod can also cross their boundary and get proud and start believing that they are superior. So in Govardhan Leela, Krishna basically protects his devotees against the onslaught of Indra. So, and he's able to do that And the way he does that is to show how easy it is for him. Like he uses his little finger of the left arm, left hand, to lift Govardhan Hill and protect his devotees against the onslaught that Indra was bringing onto the Brajvasis. And he's able to do that because he's superior to it, to the demigods. A similar pastime is when Lord Brahma tries to steal, or not that tries to steal, he kidnaps the Gopas and calves, Krishna's friends, and he keeps them for a 1 full year. And he comes back after a year to find out that Krishna has multiplied himself and taken the form of his friends, so that the absence of his friends, other Gopas, was not noticed at all. And then when Brahma looked at Krishna or those Gopas, he sees Vishnu in them. And then Vishnu turns into Krishna. So that's how Brahma then realizes that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and he is much more powerful than him, and he basically surrenders. In that pastime, he surrenders to Krishna. And then Krishna shows Brahma that you are only Brahma for this material world. There are so many other Brahmas of other worlds, right, that are under his control. So basically puts the demigod back in the position, back into its position. So these are some pastimes that basically kind of proves out or supports the argument or the reality that Krishna is superior to the demigods. Some of us chant the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And if you were here in the ceremony, the initiation ceremony we had, the 10 offenses to the holy name were mentioned. The second offense to the holy name is to basically consider the name of demigods like Brahma and Shiva to be independent or equal to the name of Lord Vishnu. So that's the prominence that is given to this fact and reality, that it is also listed as one of the offense to the holy name. So if you are on the path, if you are already in Krishna consciousness and you are on a path of self-realization, it is so important to understand the relation or the relative positions of Krishna and demigods, so that you can always have your consciousness in the right place, and you're always surrendered to the right authority. Prabhupada, in one of his explanations, he explains that sometimes we have a relation with demigods. We kind of attach to demigods for the lack of better word, and then on Krishna we sometimes try to travel in these two boats. We'll bring Krishna closer, but we will not put demigods at a distance. Right? So okay, we'll worship both. We find our common way. We become very accommodating. And that is our way to be at peace. So that's our way of avoiding tough decisions. Even if we know the reality, we avoid it and we say we pray both. So Prabhupada, in one of his lecture, kind of explains that if you are doing that, if you are praying to Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma and also Lord Krishna, if you're putting them together in the same position, then you are a Pashandi, which basically says unfaithful. You are a non-believer. So that's one of the things to be just watchful of. Do not try to travel in the two boats. Right? Take a stand. Question as much as you can. Seek the right information. Approach the right authorities. But then take the decision. Right? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also explains that affinity to Krishna or demigod is a choice we make. Right? So as jivas, we have our free will. We are independent. One aspect of that independence is Krishna is not going to force, to pray to himself. In Bhagavad Gita, he's giving the reality, he's stating the reality, and kind of choice is on us. Right? So we have to make a decision. It is also in Vedic scriptures, it is clarified that our affinity to demigods is not coming from anywhere else but Krishna. Krishna says that I am in the hearts of everybody, and if anybody shows any attraction towards a demigod, then he gives the faith to us by which we can worship that demigod. The relationship with Krishna is of love. The relationship with demigods is not of love, is of exchange, material exchange, is a trade. So our relation with Krishna is much more superior because it is based on love. And out of that relationship only Krishna says, okay, if you want to worship demigods, I will give you the faith by which you can worship the demigods. It's similar to a child, like when a child, wants something and keeps on crying for something. After a while, it's normal for a parent to give up and say, okay, I'll give it to you. And, so similarly, Krishna, because of the love-based relationship that he has with us, he gives us the faith by which we can worship the demigods. Realizing that on our journey, as we progress, there will be a time when we'll realize that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and, take steps towards him. Now, sometimes we've been saying that Krishna is clarifying this position that he is supreme and demigods are secondary. It may come across, as it did to me for the first time when I heard this, that kind of a rude statement. It's kind of a partiality. I was so attached to Durga that first time when I heard Krishna is supreme and Durga is secondary, I kind of closed my ears. I said, no, I'm not listening to all this. Right? So it's not a partiality. It's not a partiality or disrespectful in any way. It is reality. Sometimes we see that one company, when it markets its product, they basically compare two product base. There are companies out there that basically give an unbiased opinion. You compare two products and say, this product is better than that. So in here, Krishna is basically doing nothing but giving us the reality. It's not a partiality, it's knowledge, it's education. Krishna is educating us that this is how things are. That is the relative position, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, but that is what is reality. So these are the different arguments, in support of why is Krishna primary and demigods are secondary. So we learned about why do we even have demigods, which is kind of a management system. Why Vedic scriptures recommend worship to demigods, it's by concession rather than as a practice or for encouragement. Krishna's position, superior position, is stated by Krishna, is also stated by the demigods. We have seen the pastimes that proves it out. It's mentioned in the Vedic scriptures and also by our acharyas. And the role of free will, whether we choose Krishna or demigod, that's the independence us eternal souls have. Krishna does his best to give us the information, but but the choice is kind of ours. Any questions so far? No new questions? Yes, Prabhu.
You used to be a devotee of Durga.
Yes.
What changed in you?
His wife.
Like why did I left it? Is that, or how did the change happen?
If you could, can you detail what I don't want to say what chemically or what physically or what mentally, but what fundamentally changed in you? How did you come to realize that Durga isn't it and that Krishna is?
So the first thing is when I didn't have any knowledge about Krishna, when I didn't know Krishna in detail, Krishna was just as another demigod to me. As I explained, I used to go to the temple, had all the demigods, Krishna and Radha were in the center, and I paid obeisances to them because I kind of felt bad leaving the temple without paying obeisances to them. They were in the middle of the temple, but I didn't know what to ask them for. I didn't know what they give, so I just paid obeisances and didn't ask anything. So until I have the knowledge, there was no difference. Demigod was all in all for me. The first aspect is getting this knowledge and be open to the knowledge. I had an option to shut out the knowledge when I first heard that Krishna is a superior position than the demigods. I could have walked away. I could have turned my back and say, I'm not meeting these people. I'm not coming here. I'm just going to live in my shell of illusion. So getting in touch with the knowledge first. Second, be open to the knowledge. And once you give a chance to that knowledge, you will see that realization comes from inside. Even after coming to America for a long period of time, I was still worshipping Durga. My brother lives in Philadelphia. I used to go every weekend, cross the New Jersey. New Jersey has good Indian temples. There was a Durga temple. I never passed without stopping at the temple and paying obeisances. Irrespective of what day, what time, what weather, I always did that. And then slowly the realization came, it's not needed. So last time I went to Durga temple, which was a number of years ago, I paid obeisances not as a demigod, but as a devotee. And I said, thank you for putting me in touch with Krishna. And then that was the last time I visited Durga temple. There used to be fast, 9-day special fast as a worship to Durga that I used to keep. Then one year, suddenly I forgot about it. Every year I remembered and prepared ahead of time. One year I forgot about it. And I'd say, maybe that is the chance. It's a sign that Krishna is saying, it's okay, don't have to do it. So that 9-day fast I kept, Navratri, got replaced by Ekadashi. So slowly that realization comes. But yeah, the first is getting in touch with the knowledge, giving the knowledge an open chance, not just walk away from it, give a thoughtful, to that knowledge, and then slowly you would realize it makes sense. There was fear, like why? What if something happens? Right? So you have to overcome that, but the transition has been so smooth, and my life would have been totally different. I would not be sitting here. My life would be totally different if I continued on that path. Did that answer your question? Not exactly.
Not exactly, but I understand what you're saying.
But I think that came about because you married a Multicalian.
Yes. How I came in touch with the knowledge is...
You should acknowledge that.
Yes. Yes.
So it's a mercy of a Vaishnava. Basically.
It is mercy of a Vaishnava, yes. And that mercy continues.
The truth is, in Durga temple there was no prasad.
Yes.
We stopped by all the time.
So do a little time check. So we'll...
And also we carry on from where we left off in our previous life. Maybe you were a devotee and for some reason you were
Yes.
doing Durga, and then there was a time when you had to take up Krishna consciousness. So it comes to you.
And could be another reason is that you were going around the demigods and asking them, and when you went to Radha Krishna, you just paid obeisances. That is, it's a kind of a devotional service which you did unknowingly that time.
Yeah.
And that's how you got connected with Amritakeli, and then Krishna just...
Yes. There's so many...
People pray to Durga for a good wife,
I paid for all kind of things.
Because this class is changing the direction. But there are many pastimes in Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita where Krishna actually orders demigods, and they, like Keshav Bharati, he was a scholar, and Goddess Saraswati came in his dream and ordered him to become a devotee of Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, before Lord Krishna appeared in his original form, Bhumi Devi, she went to Brahmaji, and he said that this is beyond me. Because you were in the drama, so you know. So Brahmaji says this is beyond me. And Brahmaji, along with Lord Shiva and 33 crore demigods, go to Lord Vishnu and pray to him. They recited the Purusha Shukta prayers, and then Lord Vishnu said that I will appear in the Yadu dynasty as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. So there are so many pastimes where Krishna has established his supremacy, either by ordering, instructing the demigods, or establishing through other ways that he is indeed the supreme and not the demigods. So after you see that connection between what he's saying here and the other scriptures, like theologically, there are three key scriptures for our movement: Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And you will see a strong connection between the verses of Bhagavad Gita and the pastimes of Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. One of the points Anand Gauranga Prabhu mentioned was that we sometimes have fear in giving up demigod worship. To take care of that, in 16.66, Krishna says, Sartham Paritajam, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Do not fear, do not worry, I shall protect you. 18th chapter, 18.66. So when you repeatedly hear that and you come to the temple, you eat prasadam, partake charamrit, come in front of the deities, then the combined impact of all that is that you just kind of let go of it without fear. Does it answer your question?
Also, I think the Durga Devi is like Mahamaya, right? And she is like a correctional officer, tries to, help the living entities by punishing them and bringing them to Krishna. Like once you are perfect, like as long as you are committing some offenses, then you will not be getting the taste of devotional service or love for Krishna or anything. But as you get in association with the devotees and you get the knowledge, then slowly you will change. So she is trying to give you a hard time to go through in this world, and then she will bring you to Krishna ultimately. So it could be this lifetime or...
I don't want to wait another one.
Okay, so we'll try to wrap up quickly in next 5-7 minutes. It's time up?
5 after.
That's fine. You can finish it off.
5?
1 to 2 minutes.
Okay, so the second point, we talked about the first point where Krishna is saying that I'm superior and demigods are secondary. The second point is Krishna is saying offer your sacrifices to me, not to the demigods. And as I mentioned before, even if we are praying for material benefits, it still makes sense to pray to Krishna rather than the demigods. Right? Example is if Krishna is the CEO and other demigods are the department manager, who would you rather know? CEO or the department managers? Common sense answer would be without any support or any other information, you would like to know the top CEO. So that's why offer sacrifices, or sacrifices is whatever work we do with the intention for the satisfaction of Krishna. Praying to Krishna, if we offer our sacrifices to Krishna, we get eternal benefits. We make progress on our path of self-realization, on devotional service. Praying to demigods, we might get material benefits which are temporary. As soon as our good pious points are exhausted, we are back to square one. Right? So it's permanent benefits if we relate to Krishna, offer sacrifices to Krishna. It's temporary if we offer sacrifices to demigods. Also, our consciousness is impacted by who we worship. right? The relation with Krishna is a relation of love. The relation with demigods is a relation of kind of a trade. We're making a deal, right? So if we are into that frame of mind, we become a person like that. If we pray to Krishna, our heart is going to change. Praying to demigods, we pray something, we offer something, we get something back in return, and then we turn the page and start praying for something else. Our heart are less likely to change. And as it was mentioned, demigods can and have and can lead to Krishna, but that's a kind of a roundabout route, and it's a slippery slope. Generally, I've seen some of people, they pray to demigods for Krishna. Nowhere it's recommended, right? In Bhagavad Gita, nowhere it says you pray to demigods for Krishna. If you really are praying for Krishna, then pray to Krishna and be in touch with the devotees. This praying to demigods for Krishna is our concocted way. It's nowhere prescribed. It has happened, but has happened without anybody asking for it. So it's saying that don't ask for that, don't take that path. That path is not suggested. So last part of our class is how do we apply in our lives? And it has come about in our discussion. The intent is to become Krishna conscious, give up demigod worship. I know for some it might sound rude, for others it may not be, but basically that is how we can use what Krishna is saying in this verse in our lives, giving up demigod worship. Yes, Prabhu.
What did Prabhupada have to say about the gods of Western religions? Are they considered demigods or are names of Krishna?
So gods of Western religion like Jesus, if we talk about?
Or Old Testament God in Judaism, yes.
So I know about Jesus, I have heard that he's kind of an acharya, right? So he's not like God, but from the explanations in the Vedic text, he would fit in a definition of a person who has come to give the lesson, the message of God, which is who acharyas are. Yes.
I have a little bit of question, just a question to ask. I mean, my first time of coming here, I was raised as a Christian, and I realized that at a certain point in my life, there are certain, when I was, when you are raised in a religious house, you don't question anybody. But as soon as you grow and you begin to search knowledge, you go deeper into the scripture and you see some kind of contradiction and so many things from the Bible, because sometimes, so when I grew up in my early 25 years, I started asking questions, I don't get the answer. Something about creation. And I go through the Bible and realize that there is Adam, and Adam having two children, and one was killed, and God punished the other one, and then he says that when I go out there with this punishment and with this sign, some human being will kill me. But according to the scriptures, you have Adam having two children. The creation began from human existence, began from Adam, and then two children, and then one was killed, and the other one was punished with sign by God, and say, when I go out there, human being will kill me. In other words, there were some kind of human being in existence before even Adam was created. So this kind of questions, when you ask the pastors or teachers, they don't answer you. So when I grew up and I don't get the answer, I started searching around and I started reading listen to the teachings of Hare Krishna, and then I came to realize that human beings were even living 100,000 years. In other words, wait a minute, but if you look at the creation chronology, probably Adam wasn't existent in that time, that 100,000 years, because Adam even didn't live up to 1,000 years. So, and then now, the reason why I came here because looking at the teaching of Hare Krishna, I came to realize that God, in His own way, at a particular point in time, changing Himself. That is called the expand. God transformed himself, that is Krishna, came in a different godly form. And then Jesus Christ, according to the Bible, God wanted to deal with human being, came in a human form. And the reason why I'm here, because I realize that your teachings go deeper than the Bible. But in my own mind, I see them to be more or less in human existence. They have a human qualities like hand and all those things. But in my understanding, they represent God. The God that we don't see. These two human entities, God came into us in a different way, in a human form, for us to connect with him. But you're teaching me that Jesus is more or less like Muhammad or a prophet, and then Krishna is the God himself. Is that what you want to say?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much for coming. Your story kind of sounds similar to the story of Pyare Prabhu, who is the president of this temple. He has shared his story before. And as you said, that when he was young, he was going around and checking out because he didn't find all the answers in the religion that he was following, and he's a Westerner. And he kind of did his homework, like you are doing yours now, going around and checking out what other information exists and what other paths have to say. And he kind of landed here because it all made sense. So as by Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the God. He has taken many forms. He comes in different incarnations just for specific purposes, right? And Bhagavad Gita also explains Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, and we are the eternal souls. We are not this body. The hand and this that you're saying, I think you're referring to the body, but we are the soul that is inside this body. And we have always existed. Our relation with Krishna is that of love, right? Our purpose is to serve Krishna. And until we find that, all the other activities we do are not going to be internally satisfying to us. They might be satisfy us for a small period of time, and then we'll be frustrated and dissatisfied again. So high level, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not saying Krishna is Hindu God or this God or that God. Krishna is the God, is what the Vedic scriptures say. But I'm sure I'm not answering all your questions. You have many, many more questions. So if you want, we can definitely sit after the program. If you want, we can sit together and maybe talk through some of those as well.
And Krishna comes in a human form, but he's still God. But we are also in human form, but we are not. We have only minute qualities like Krishna. In Krishna, nobody forces him to come here as a human form. He's always God and he has that form. But whereas somebody forcing us is to come here to the material world. But Krishna has his own body that's transcendental, even though he looks like human, but his body is not same as us. Our body perishes, but Krishna's body never perishes. He's transcendental. So it's spiritual body, whereas we have a material body which is perishes at the end of certain time.
Okay, so I'll wrap it up. So how do we apply in our lives? Basically, the message is take on Krishna consciousness exclusively. Exclusively means take a stand. Don't be in two boats. Hey, I'm too scared to stop demigod worship, but I like Krishna also, so let me just worship both. Don't be in two boats. Take a stand, challenge yourself, seek information if you are not sure. But you're going to have to take a stand. Why? That's good for your spiritual progress. Do not fear in giving up demigod worship. It is not a disrespect to the demigods. And I say that from my own experience. Even though it feels like that, don't fear. I feared, and I thought that's disrespect. It's not a disrespect either. And if you are worshipping Krishna, believe in Krishna, and following the guidance and the information Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, He'll always be there to protect you from one form or the other. Okay, that's all. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Anand Gauranga Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Big class.